Hello everybody, welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we shall be analysing the Hindu newspaper dated 15th of December 2019 of the New Delhi edition. The topics to be discussed today has been presented on your screen. Timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. Let us begin our today's discussion. Next article appears on page number 14 in the FAQ page of the Hindu newspaper. The title of the article is Tech Titans Under Watch. This article shall be important mainly from the perspective of GS Paper 3 Economy under the subsection Indian Economy and Various Issues. Now, the various proponents of the free market economy argue for a free and fair competition among the private sector entities. They argue that by promoting free and fair competition among the private sector, we would be able to allocate the resources in an optimum manner. We would be able to decrease the prices of goods and services. We would be able to enhance the quality of goods and services, and we would also be able to prevent the monopolization and promote innovation within a particular economy. Now, this could be understood by looking at the telecommunication sector and the aviation sector in case of India. Now, before the adoption of the LPG reforms in the year 1991, the telecommunication sector was being monopolized by the BSNL and the aviation sector was monopolized by the Air India company. Since these two sectors were monopolized, both the phone call rates as well as the air ticket were considered to be extremely costly. Apart from that, the quality of goods and services provided in both telecommunication sector as well as aviation sector were considered to be quite poor. However, post the LPG reforms, we have seen the entry of large number of private sector players in both telecommunication sector as well as aviation sector, and because of such competition among the private sector entities, the prices of the goods and services have got reduced, and this is accompanied by increase in the quality of the goods and services. So overall, the proponents of the free market economy argue for the free and fair competition among the private sector. So what should be the role of a government in a free market economy? Ideally, the government should play a minimalistic role wherein the government should not be involved in the production of the goods and services. And the role of the government as such has to be redefined as coordinator, enabler and facilitator. That means to say the government of a particular country has to create conducive ecosystem for the healthy development of the private sector. Apart from that, the government has to set up the independent regulators so as to ensure that the profit maximizing private sector works in the best interest of the society. The government should also avoid the monopolistic tendencies of the private sector, wherein the government has to ensure that no single private sector entity enjoys a dominant position in the market. And in order to avoid such kind of monopolistic tendencies, the government of any particular country comes out with the antitrust regulations. So the overall objective of the antitrust regulations is to promote free and fair competition among the private sector and to ensure that no single private sector entity enjoys the dominant position in the market. As part of the antitrust regulations, the government may restrict the abuse of the dominant position of a particular private sector entity. The government also regulates the mergers and acquisitions of the private sector entities so as to ensure that no single private sector entity becomes the most dominant player in the market. Now, for instance, in case of India, we have formulated the Competition Act 2002 as the antitrust regulations. Now, the Competition Act 2002 restricts the abuse of the dominant position by a particular private sector entity. It also regulates the mergers and acquisitions of the private sector entities, and it has set up the Competition Commission of India as a competition regulator. Now, even though there are a number of flaws with the antitrust regulations formulated either by India or by other countries, these antitrust regulations have so far proved effective to restrict the abuse of the dominant position by the private sector entities. But the question which arises here is that can the same antitrust regulations be applied even to the big technological companies such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, or Microsoft? Now, such a question arises simply because of the fact that the various antitrust regulations formulated across the world have failed to prevent the growing monopolization of these big technological giant companies. For instance, if you look at the combined revenue of these five companies, that is Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, the annual combined revenues of these five companies put together is almost up to $800 billion, which is much higher than the entire GDP of Saudi Arabia. And if you look at these five companies have been able to make huge amount of profits basically by harnessing the user generated data. So it is being stated that these five technological giant companies have abused their dominant position in the market and made huge amount of profits. So the various antitrust regulations laid down by the countries across the world have not proved to be sufficient in order to check the monopolization by these technological giant companies. Now, the growing monopoly of these technological giant companies raises a number of concerns across the world. First and foremost, it has been highlighted that these technological giant companies have violated the various antitrust regulations in various countries such as India, or for that matter even in USA as well. The growing monopolization by these technological giant companies has in turn hindered the growth of their smaller rivals. Now, for instance, what these five technological giant companies have basically done is that if they find that any of their smaller rivals is growing stronger year on year, then these five technological giant companies have taken over those smaller rivals. For instance, the Facebook company took over the messaging platform, that is the WhatsApp, since the WhatsApp as such was growing stronger and this was posing a problem to the Facebook. So the Facebook in turn took over the WhatsApp under its control. On similar lines, these five technological giant companies are misusing the personal data of the users so as to make huge amount of profits. This can once again be seen with respect to the Google search engine. Now, the Google platform enjoys a dominant position among the search engines, wherein it controls almost up to 92% of the online enquiries in the search engines. Now, whenever an individual searches for a particular product on the Google search engine, such an individual leaves behind the digital footprint. Now, by using the digital footprint of the users, the Google search engine then optimizes the advertisements for such users. Now, this clearly shows that the Google search engine is misusing the personal data of the users, and by misusing such personal data, the Google search engine is able to make huge amount of profits through the online advertisements. And lastly, we have to realize that these technological giant companies not only enjoy the dominant position in the market, but they also have deep pockets. This in turn enables them to have a pervasive influence on our economy, society, as well as politics. The best example of such an influence can be seen in the Cambridge Analytica case of the Facebook. It is to be noted that in the Cambridge Analytica case, Facebook had misused the personal data of the users so as to target the political advertisements. Now, this clearly shows that the Facebook as such was unethically involved in influencing the decision of the voters. In this regard, this particular article here basically focus on two aspects. First and foremost, it highlights as to how the various technological companies have violated the antitrust regulations, and secondly, it also discusses as to what should be done in order to ensure that the antitrust regulations are made more effective for these technological giant companies. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we'll focus on these two aspects of the article. Let us now understand as to how the various technological giant companies have misused their dominant market position. Coming first to the Facebook. Now, over a period of time, Facebook has emerged as the most dominant social media platform across the world with a user base of almost up to 2 billion users. Now, what Facebook is essentially doing is that it is monetizing the user generated data so as to make huge amount of profits. Now, for instance, whenever you like a particular page on the Facebook, The Facebook then uses this particular data so as to target the advertisement towards you. Thus, by targeting the advertisements, the Facebook earns huge amount of profits. Similarly, as discussed before in the Cambridge Analytica case, Facebook was unethically involved in unduly influencing the voters' decision making. Further, in order to ensure that it remains a dominant player in the social media platforms, Facebook has acquired both WhatsApp as well as Instagram. And lastly, some of the users in the other countries have also highlighted that Facebook has cut off the access to the third-party apps on its social media platform. So, by cutting off the access to third-party apps, Facebook as such is promoting its own in-house developed apps. Now, with respect to abuse of the dominant market position by the Google, now as stated before, Google has emerged as a major dominant player among the search engines, wherein it controls almost up to 92% of the online search queries. And these online search queries are in turn used by the Google so as to target the advertisements towards its users. Another problem with respect to Google search engine is with respect to the search bias, wherein it has been highlighted that Google deliberately sends its users to those websites who have placed advertisements on the Google. Now, for example, in case of India, Bharat Matrimony had filed a case against Google before the Competition Commission of India, wherein Bharat Matrimony had highlighted that if a particular user is searching for bharatmatrimony.com on the Google, then the Google is highlighting shadi.com as a first search result rather than highlighting bharatmatrimony.com. Now, this clearly shows that the Google as such is displaying the search bias towards those websites who have placed the advertisements on the Google search engine. Apart from that, some of the users have also highlighted that the Google search engine is deliberately sending them to its own sites such as the Google Flights or the Google Maps. Now, the third aspect of the abuse of the dominant position by the Google can be seen with respect to the agreements that it had entered into the smartphone manufacturers. Now, the Google company, apart from operating the search engine, has also developed the Android operating system which is installed on the smartphones. Now, even though the Google company claims that the Android operating system is an open source platform, however, the Google company has entered into a kind of agreement with the smartphone manufacturers wherein the Google company is forcing the smartphone manufacturers to pre-install some of the Google apps. Now, these apps could be rated to the Google Map, the Google Chrome and so on. So, since the Google company has developed the Android operating system, it is in turn forcing the smartphone manufacturers to pre-install the Google apps on the smartphones. Now, with respect to Amazon, it has been highlighted that Amazon is restricting its users from selling their goods more cheaply on its rival platforms. So, Amazon is forcing its sellers to sell their goods at a cheaper price. Further, Amazon is also favoring its own branded products over the third-party products. With respect to Apple, it has been highlighted that the Apple company is in turn restricting some of the third-party apps from getting downloaded from its Apple App Store. So, by restricting the access to third-party apps, the Apple company is deliberately promoting its own in-house developed apps. So, the question which arises here is that what should be done in order to prevent the misuse of the dominant position by these technological giant companies? First and foremost, we have to provide for a strong and effective enforcement of the antitrust regulations across the world. Secondly, we have to widen the ambit of the antitrust regulations, wherein the antitrust regulations should explicitly include the privacy, social media influencing, and the opinion formation. Now, this essentially means that we have to ensure that no single technological giant company is able to monopolize the data of the users. We have to ensure that no single social media company enjoys a dominant position. And thirdly, we have to ensure that none of these technological giant companies are able to influence the opinion of the people in any democratic country. Thirdly, in case of USA, certain proposals have been put forward so as to break these technological companies. Please note that these proposals as such are still in conceptualization stage and have not been finalized. Nevertheless, let us understand some of these proposals that have been put forward. The first proposal is that the various platforms developed by the technological giant companies have to evolve into separate companies in future. Now, for instance, if you look at the Google company, not only is it involved in the Google search engine, but it is also involved in the development of the Android operating system. Now, the development of these multiple platforms by the Google company in turn enables Google to enjoy its dominant position in the market. So, the proposal here is that these platforms developed by various companies should evolve into separate companies in future. The second proposal is to reverse the past acquisitions that have taken place. Now, as highlighted before, the Facebook company has taken over both WhatsApp as well as the Instagram, which enables the Facebook company to enjoy its dominant position in the social media platforms. So, the proposal here is that we have to reverse these past acquisitions and enable the previous companies such as WhatsApp and Instagram to develop on their own. The third proposal which has been put forward is that we can probably restrict the number of products which these technological giant companies can offer. So by reducing the number of products which these technological giant companies can offer, we would be in turn be able to reduce the overall dominant market position of these technological giant companies. Now, based upon a video analysis, a main question for your practice here could be discuss as to how the technological giant companies are misusing their dominant market position and violating the antitrust regulations across the world. What should be done in order to prevent the growing monopolization of such technological giants? Now you can try writing answer to this particular question based upon our video analysis. Now this particular article appears on page number 9. The title of the article is Modi chairs the first meeting of the Ganga Council. This article shall be important mainly from the perspective of GS paper 3 environment under the subsection conservation, environmental pollution and degradation. Now before analyzing this particular article, let us first look into its background. As you all must be aware, there has been a rapid degradation of river Ganga in the recent times. Such a rapid degradation has basically taken place on account of the rapid industrialization, urbanization and various religious offerings that are made in the non-biodegradable plastic. So such an increase in the pollution of river Ganga has not only affected almost up to 400 million people, it has also affected the associated biodiversity such as the Gangetic dolphin. Hence, in order to reduce pollution and undertake the conservation and rejuvenation of river Ganga, the Government of India has announced the Namami Gange program through the Union Budget 2014-15. The Namami Gange program is an integrated conservation mission which has been approved as a flagship program by the Union Government with a total budget outlay of almost up to Rs 20,000 crores. Now the Namami Gange program is in turn built upon a number of pillars. These pillars are first and foremost creating the sewerage treatment capacity along the river Ganga so as to reduce the pollution from industries and urban areas. The second pillar is to undertake the riverfront development. Now as part of this particular component, the government is undertaking the construction and modernization of the river ghats. The next pillar is river surface cleaning. As part of this particular component, the government is focusing on the removal of floating solid waste from the river Ganga. Under the next pillar of biodiversity conservation, the government is focusing on the conservation of the identified species such as the Gangetic dolphin. The government is also focusing on the afforestation related activities. Under the sixth component of enhancing public awareness, the government is conducting the workshops, seminars and conferences so as to enhance the community participation in the cleaning of river Ganga. Under the seventh component of the industrial effluent monitoring, the government is carrying out the regular and surprise inspections of the polluting industries so as to ensure that they are not letting out the pollutants into the river Ganga. And under the last component, the Government of India has identified some of the villages along the river Ganga as the Ganga Gram, and the idea of identification of such villages is to enhance the sanitation facilities in those Ganga Gram villages. Apart from that, since the river Ganga flows across the multiple states, we require multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder approach, wherein as part of multi-sectoral approach, various union ministries have to come together and coordinate with each other so as to improve the effectiveness of the Namami Gange program. On similar lines, there has to be adequate amount of coordination between the center, states, as well as the local bodies so as to improve the effectiveness of the Namami Gange program. Hence, in order to bring about such a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder approach, the Government of India has adopted a five-tier institutional structure at the national level, state level, and the district level. At the national level, we have set up the National Ganga Council with the Prime Minister as its head, and it comprises of the Union Ministers as well as the Chief Ministers of the Ganga Basin states. So these states basically include Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. The mandate of the National Ganga Council is to exercise superintendence, direction, and the development and control of River Ganga. And please note that the National Ganga Council was set up in the year 2016 after replacing the National Ganga River Basin Authority, which was earlier set up under the Environmental Protection Act 1986. So the National Ganga Council has replaced the erstwhile National Ganga River Basin Authority as a nodal agency for the undertaking the development of River Ganga. At the second level, we have set up the Empowered Task Force on River Ganga, and this particular task force is under the chairmanship of the Union Minister for Water Resources. At the third level, we have set up the National Mission for Clean Ganga, which basically acts as an implementing arm for the Namami Gange program. The National Mission for Clean Ganga has a two-tier management structure, and it comprises of the Governing Council and the Executive Committee. Both the Governing Council and the Executive Committee are in turn headed by the Director General for the National Mission for Clean Ganga. At the fourth level, we have set up the State Ganga Committees in the basin states of River Ganga, and at the district level, we have set up the District Ganga Committees. Apart from these two initiatives, we have also set up the Clean Ganga Fund. Now, this particular fund has basically been set up so as to facilitate the contributions from the individuals, NRIs, and corporate entities for funding the Ganga rejuvenation projects. Thus, the five-tier institutional structure basically attempts to bring all the stakeholders on a single platform so as to take a holistic approach towards the task of Ganga cleaning and rejuvenation. Now, as stated before, the National Ganga Council was set up in the year 2016, and it was expected to meet at least once in a year. But because of a number of reasons, the first meeting of the National Ganga Council was not held so far, and it was only recently that the first meeting of the National Ganga Council was held. Now, during the meeting of the National Ganga Council, Prime Minister Modi has emphasized the need for transition from the Namami Gange to Earth Gange. Now, Earth Gange, as the name suggests, basically emphasizes on adopting a sustainable development model with a focus on economic activities so as to boost the Namami Gange program. So the idea here is that if you focus on the economic activities, we will be able to generate sufficient amount of revenue which then can be used for the rejuvenation of River Ganga. For instance, Prime Minister Modi has highlighted that under the Namami Gange program, we should not only emphasize on boosting the religious tourism, but we must also emphasize on boosting the adventure tourism. Now, the adventure tourism related activities may include the setting up of the campsites along the River Ganga, river rafting, construction of walking tracks along the River Ganga, and so on. So by promoting adventure tourism, we would be able to generate sufficient amount of revenue which then can be used for the rejuvenation of River Ganga. Apart from this, Prime Minister Modi has also highlighted that the Namami Gange program should also lay a due amount of emphasis even on the agriculture related activities, wherein the farmers as such have to focus on the sustainable agricultural practices, and the farmers should also have to take up the zero budget natural farming, which then can reduce the extent of pollution in the River Ganga. Now, these are some of the important aspects which one should know with respect to this particular article. Apart from that, let us also discuss the various implementation challenges in the Namami Gange program. Now, these implementation challenges as such can be asked in the UPSC mains examination. Hence, let us understand as to what are the various challenges in the implementation of the Namami Gange program? Now, the various implementation challenges of the Namami Gange program can be categorized into 4 different aspects. These aspects are the sewage treatment, minimum ecological flow, poor management of finances, and the government glitches. Coming first to the sewage treatment under the Namami Gange program. As stated before, the sewage treatment is considered to be one of the founding pillars of the Namami Gange program. And as per the Namami Gange program, we are required to set up a sewage treatment plants with a capacity of almost up to 2000 million liters a day. However, so far we have been able to set up the sewage treatment plants with a capacity of only around 328 million liters a day. Now, such kind of delay in the construction of sewage treatment plants has basically taken place on account of the delays in the land acquisition. Apart from that, once we construct the sewage treatment plant, the entire sewerage network within a particular city should be in turn be connected to the sewage treatment plant. This would ensure that the entire sewerage would be treated at the sewage treatment plant and it would not be let off into the river Ganga. However, in most of the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the sewerage network as such is not directly connected to the sewerage treatment plants, because of which in some of the cases the sewerage is finding its way into the river Ganga. So we need to step up the efforts so as to improve the sewerage network in the cities and ensure that all the sewerage networks are in turn connected to the sewerage treatment plants. Further, the tanneries which are located in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities along the river Ganga have been responsible for the chromium pollution in the river Ganga. Accordingly, the government has stipulated that all the tanneries should compulsorily undertake the treatment of the chromium before letting off their waste into the river Ganga. However, it has been found out that most of the tanneries are not treating the chromium before letting off their waste into the river Ganga. The second problem is with respect to maintaining the minimum ecological flow. As you all must be aware, the rivers as such have a capability to self-purify themselves if they have adequate amount of water flow. However, because of the excessive use of water, both due to industrialization as well as urbanization, the total amount of base flow in the river Ganga has got reduced. For instance, according to a paper which was published by IIT Kharagpur, the total amount of base flow of water has reduced by almost up to 56% in the year 2016 as compared to 1970s. So the very fact that the total base flow in the river Ganga has got reduced, the pollution level has also increased accordingly. Apart from that, the Wildlife Institute of India has highlighted that the construction of hydroelectric projects in the upper stretches of river Ganga have in turn reduced the flow of water in the downstream river as well. In order to harness the hydroelectric potential of river Ganga, we have constructed a large number of hydroelectric projects in the upper stretches of river Ganga, particularly in its tributaries such as Bhagirathi as well as Alaknanda. Now, the construction of hydroelectric projects on the upper stretches of river would require us to store a certain amount of water in its upper stretches. Hence, the storage of water in the upper stretches of river Ganga has in turn reduced the total amount of water flow in the downstream area. So when the total amount of water flow in the river Ganga reduces, even small amount of pollutants can drastically increase the pollution of river Ganga. The third aspect is related to the poor management of finances. Now, as stated before, the construction of sewage treatment plants is considered to be one of the main pillars of the Namami Gange program. However, according to a study which was carried out by CAG, only 1/4 of the money has been allocated for the construction of the sewage treatment plants. Apart from this particular aspect, the office of CAG has also highlighted that between the years 2014-15 to 2016-17, only 60% of the funds which have been allocated under the Namami Gange program have been utilized so far. Thus, in spite of having adequate amount of finances, the government has failed to utilize these finances for undertaking the rejuvenation of river Ganga. On similar lines, as discussed before, the government of India has set up the Clean Ganga Fund so as to receive the contribution from the individuals, NRIs and corporate entities for undertaking the rejuvenation of river Ganga. Now, so far, the government has been able to collect up to rupees 200 crores under the Clean Ganga Fund. Now, in order to utilize this particular fund, the government is required to come out with the action plans. And since the government has failed up to come up with the action plans, the funds as such have remained unutilized. And lastly, as stated before, under the Namami Gange program, the focus is on afforestation so as to undertake the ground recharge activities. However, only 48% of the funds which have been earmarked for the afforestation have been utilized so far. The last implementation challenges is with respect to the government glitches or the government apathy. Now, for instance, we had highlighted before that the National Ganga Council is required to meet once every year, but since 2016, not a single meeting of the National Ganga Council had taken place. It was only recently that the first meeting of the National Ganga Council took place. On similar lines, the Empower Task Force, which is headed by the Union Minister for Water Resources, is required to meet at least once every 3 months. However, so far it has met only thrice. And lastly, in the year 2016, the Government of India had submitted the Ganga Rejuvenation Basin Management Program. Now, under this particular program, the government had stated that it would take into account not only the river Ganga but even its tributaries as well. So the idea here is that if we have to reduce the pollution in the river Ganga, then we must not only take into account the mainstream river Ganga, but we must also take into account the pollution in its tributaries as well. However, not much emphasis has been laid on the towns which lie on the tributaries of the river Ganga, which is in turn leading to the increase in the pollution of river Ganga. Now, these are some of the implementation challenges of the Namami Gange program. Further, based upon a video analysis, a mains question for your practice here could be the launch of Namami Gange program to rejuvenate the river Ganga is undoubtedly a welcome move. However, the program is facing a number of implementation challenges which can reduce its effectiveness. Discuss. Now you can try writing answer to this particular question based upon our video analysis. Now we have taken this particular article from page number 9. The title of this particular article is NPPA hikes the ceiling price of 12 essential medicines. This article shall be important mainly from the perspective of GS paper 3 economy under the subsection Indian economy and various issues. As you all must be aware, in case of India, the prices of the essential medicines are controlled under the Drug Price Control Order 2013. Under DPCO 2013, it is the responsibility of the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority to fix the ceiling prices of the essential drugs. And all those drugs whose prices are sought to be controlled are placed under the Schedule 1 of the DPCO 2013, and this particular list is referred to as the National List of Essential Medicines. Further, under paragraph 19 of DPCO 2013, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has been vested with the extraordinary powers to either increase or decrease the prices of the essential drugs. Now, in pursuance of the powers vested under the paragraph 19 of DPCO 2013, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has sought to increase the ceiling prices of 12 essential medicines by almost around 50%. Now, some of the medicines whose ceiling prices have now been increased include the BCG vaccine, the anti-malaria drug chloroquine, the anti-leprosy drug dapsone, and so on. Now, the basic rationale given by NPPA to increase the ceiling prices of these essential medicines is that over a period of time, there has been an increase in the cost of raw materials as well as the production cost of these essential drugs, because of which the pharmaceutical companies were demanding for an increase in the ceiling prices. The pharmaceutical companies had also argued that if NPPA fails to increase the ceiling prices of these drugs, then the pharmaceutical companies would cut down on their production. Hence, this particular demand of the pharmaceutical companies has now been accepted by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, and accordingly, the ceiling prices of 12 essential medicines have been increased by almost around 50%. However, such a move by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has been in turn criticized by various public health activists since it would lead to an increase in the prices of the essential medicines. The public health activists have argued that the increase in the ceiling prices of these essential drugs could make these drugs unaffordable to the poor people. Now, in our DNS dated 20th of February 2019, we have discussed various aspects related to the regulation of the drug prices in case of India. In this particular DNS, we have discussed as to who fixes the prices of the essential medicines, how the prices of the essential medicines are fixed. We had also discussed about the recent amendments made to the Drug Price Control Order 2013 and how these amendments would in turn adversely affect the interests of the patients. So what I would do here is that I would attach the previous DNS dated 28th of February 2019 for your revision. Apart from that, a mains question for practice has been included in this particular DNS. I would suggest you to attempt this particular mains question for a practice after going to the DNS. The cost of medicines in India is considered to be quite higher, wherein, according to National Sample Survey Organization, the medicines account for almost 50% of the inpatient cost, and they also account for almost around 70% of out-of-pocket expenditure on health. Now, this clearly shows that the patients have to shell out huge amount of money on buying of medicines. Hence, there is a need to regulate the prices of medicines in order to make them affordable for the common man. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we shall mainly focus on four aspects of the article. Firstly, we'll understand as to who regulates the prices of medicines, how are the prices of medicines regulated. Further, the prices of medicines in India are regulated through the Drug Price Control Order 2013, and recently the Government of India had carried out the amendments to the Drug Price Control Order. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we'll understand as to what are the recent amendments to the Drug Price Control Order as well as the problems with the recent amendments. And an expected UPSC mains question which could be asked from this particular article could be, the recent amendments to the Drug Price Control Order 2013 have fueled concerns that the government may find it difficult to keep the prices of essential medicines under control, and it may have an adverse impact on the patients. Elucidate. Let us start analyzing these aspects of the article one by one. Let us first understand about the fixing of the prices of the medicines. Now, under the Essential Commodities Act, the Government of India is empowered to fix the prices of essential commodities such as the food commodities, medicines as well as fuel. Hence, in accordance with the powers vested with the government under the Essential Commodities Act, the Government of India has notified the Drug Price Control Order 2013 in order to fix the prices of the medicines in India. Now, under the Drug Price Control Order, some of the medicines are identified as the essential medicines, and all such medicines are listed under the Schedule 1 of the Drug Price Control Order, and this particular list is also referred to as the National List of the Essential Medicines. And the medicines which are part of the Schedule 1 are also referred to as the scheduled drugs or the scheduled formulations. So if one looks at the National List of Essential Medicines 2015, almost around 800 medicines prices are being controlled by the Government of India. Further, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority keeps on monitoring the prices of the scheduled drugs and accordingly ensures that the prices of these drugs do not cross the limit which has been set by the government. Further, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority also ensures the availability of the scheduled drugs. Now, what is important to be noted here is that the prices of only those medicines which are listed in the Schedule 1 of the Drug Price Control Order are controlled by the government. And one important aspect which you should note with respect to prelims is that the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority also keeps on monitoring the prices of non-scheduled drugs, that is, those drugs which are not part of the National List of Essential Medicines. And the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority ensures that the prices of non-scheduled drugs do not increase by more than 10% every year. Let us now understand as to how the prices of the scheduled drugs are being fixed. Now, the present mechanism which has been adopted to fix the prices of the scheduled drugs is referred to as the market-based pricing mechanism. Now, under this particular mechanism, we fix the ceiling price of the scheduled drug by calculating the simple average of all the brands having at least 1% of the market share in India. Let us understand this particular concept of fixing the prices of essential drugs by looking at an example. Let's say there is a cancer drug which has been listed as a scheduled drug, and this particular cancer drug is sold by four companies in India, wherein the share of company A is 40%, share of company B is 10%, share of company C is 49.2, and that of D is 0.8%. And the prices of the cancer drug sold by these companies is as shown in the table. Now, in order to calculate the ceiling price of this particular cancer drug, we would have to take into account only those companies whose market share is more than 1%. So, if you look at the table, the price of the cancer drug sold by the company A, B, and C should be taken into account, whereas the price of the cancer drug sold by the company D would not be taken into account since its market share is less than 1%. So, if you look at the average price of the cancer drug sold by the company A, B, and C, it works out to be around rupees 15. So, this rupees 15 would be fixed as the ceiling price for this particular cancer drug, which is listed as the scheduled drug under the drug price control order. Further, the paragraph 19 of the Drug Price Control Order has given exceptional powers to the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, wherein under paragraph 19, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority can even control the prices of the drugs which are not under the National List of Essential Medicines. However, the prices of these drugs can be controlled only under extraordinary circumstances in the public interest. For example, under the powers conferred with the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, under paragraph 19, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has fixed a maximum ceiling price for the cardiac stents as well as the knee implants. As discussed, the Government of India has recently notified the amendments to the Drug Price Control Order, and it is being said that the recent amendments would go against the interests of the patients. Let us understand as to what exactly is this amendment and why it goes against the interests of the patients. Now, under the recent amendments, the Government of India has notified that the newly patented drugs would not be included in the National List of Essential Medicines for a period of 5 years from the date of the commercial marketing in India. For example, let's say a new drug has been released in the market to treat the kidney cancer, and this particular drug has been patented in the year 2018, and subsequently this particular drug is sold in India. Now, according to the government's recent amendments, this particular kidney cancer drug shall not be included in the national list of essential medicines for a period of at least 5 years, which means to say that this kidney drug can be included in the national list of essential medicines only after 2023. Further, what is important to be noted here is that this exemption of not including in the national list of essential medicines has been extended even to the orphan drugs. Now, the orphan drugs are essentially the medicines which are used for the treatment of life threatening rare diseases. Now, these drugs are referred to as orphan drugs because the rare diseases affect a small percentage of a population in a country, and hence the pharmaceutical companies which work on a profit motive do not have the incentives to invest in research and development for the development of the orphan drugs. It is to be noted that in order to promote innovation and development of orphan drugs, countries such as US and European Union give benefits to the companies for the development of orphan drugs, wherein the patents for the orphan drugs can be extended to even beyond the 20 years. For example, the autoimmune disease is considered to be a form of the rare disease, and the drug which is used to treat this autoimmune disease is referred to as the rituximab. Now, through the recent amendments, the Government of India has stated that the orphan drugs shall not be included in the national list of essential medicines for a period of at least 5 years. This is mainly done in order to promote the research and innovation in the orphan drugs. Let us now understand as to what are the problems with the recent amendments. Now, since the government has stated that the newly patented drugs shall be exempted from the price controls for a period of 5 years, the government has given up the scope to fix the prices of the patented drugs. and hence there are concerns that the prices of newly patented drugs can drastically increase in the Indian domestic market, and this can adversely affect the patients who are dependent upon such patented drugs. The second concern with the recent amendment is that the recent amendment has not explicitly provided that the compulsory licensing may be issued for the patented drugs. Now, the problem here is that because of the recent amendments, the prices of the patented drugs could drastically increase. Hence, the government notification should have explicitly provided for the compulsory licensing of the patented drugs if their prices are extremely higher. However, the recent amendment has not explicitly provided for the compulsory licensing. Now, what exactly is this compulsory licensing? Now, compulsory licensing essentially means if a life saving patented drug is extremely costly and unaffordable to the poor people, then the government can authorize a third party to manufacture and sell the patented drug. This is mainly done in order to ensure that the life saving patented drugs are made available to the poor people at an affordable cost. Such a compulsory licensing has been provided under both the Patents Act in India as well as the trade related aspects of the intellectual property rights of the WTO. For example, a German company known as Bayer was selling a patented drug known as Nexavar for treating the kidney cancer. However, the cost of Nexavar was considered to be quite higher and unaffordable to the poor people in India, and accordingly, the government issued the compulsory licensing for the manufacture and sale of the Nexavar, wherein under the compulsory licensing, it gave permission to a domestic company known as the Natco Pharma to manufacture and sell the Nexavar at a lesser cost to the people. Now, the issue of compulsory licensing for the manufacture of Nexavar drug had a huge impact, wherein because of the compulsory licensing, the cost of the Nexavar drug reduced to almost 4% of its original price. Now, what should have happened in the recent amendments is that the government should have explicitly provided that if the cost of a life-saving patented drug is costly and unaffordable, then the government may issue compulsory licensing. Now, this would have sent a clear signal to the pharmaceutical companies to sell their patented drugs at a lesser price in the Indian domestic market. So, these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. So, based upon our video analysis, you can try writing answer to this expected UPSC mains question. Now, we are taken the next article from page number 13. The title of the article is Google wants the US Fed to follow India's UPI example. This article shall be important mainly with respect to prelims under the subsection Indian economy. Now, this particular article here highlights that the Google company has recently written a letter to the US Central Bank, that is the Federal Reserve Board. In its letter, the Google company has requested the US Federal Reserve Board to set up a UPI-like app in USA so as to promote the digital payments. The Google company has stated that such an app for the transfer of money should be named as FedNow in USA, and it should be modeled along the lines of the UPI app in India. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we'll understand as to what are the various strengths of UPI and its basic features. Now, the Unified Payment Interface is basically an interface that facilitates a transfer of money between the two bank accounts, and it has been established by the National Payment Corporation of India. So, by using a UPI app on a smartphone, a customer would be able to transfer money between any two bank accounts. Apart from transferring money between the two bank accounts, a customer would also be able to pay money directly from his bank account to different merchants. Now, the UPI interface is considered to be much better than the internet banking. This is because if you are doing the internet banking, you would be required to enter multiple details such as the account number, the IFSC code, and so on. And these transactions have to be entered multiple times whenever you are doing the internet banking. However, in case of UPI, these details have to be entered only once, and there is no need for entering these details multiple times for doing the transactions. Apart from this uniqueness, the other uniqueness of the UPI interface is that it provides for an immediate money transfer through the mobile device. A single mobile application may be used for accessing different bank accounts. With respect to security feature of UPI, the UPI uses a single click two-factor authentication. Now when we say two-factor authentication, it essentially means that there are two levels that are involved in order to authenticate a particular transaction. In case of UPI, the first level of authentication is a PIN, which is needed in order to access the UPI interface. With respect to second level of authentication, the second level of authentication could be either the OTP, that is the one-time password on your mobile, or in some of the cases, even the biometrics can also be used as the second level of authentication. So since the UPI interface uses a two-factor authentication, it is considered to be safe and secure. Further, the UPI is considered to be an open technology. That means to say even various technological companies can build their application platforms by using the UPI. Now for instance, the Google company has built a payment interface known as the Google Pay, and the Google Pay is in turn using the UPI interface. Now with respect to success of UPI, it has been stated that post the demonetization, there has been a rapid push to the digital ecosystem in India, and such a push has in turn led to the increase in the number of the UPI transactions. For instance, this particular article here highlights that the annual rate of transactions flowing through UPI is almost around 10% of India's GDP. Apart from that, according to a report published by the National Payment Corporation of India, in the month of September 2019, the total number of transactions through the UPI stood at a record high of almost around 95 crores. Apart from that, if you look at the total value of the transactions in the month of September 2019, this stood at almost up to 1.6 lakh crores. So overall, there has been a rapid push to the UPI transactions in recent times, particularly after the demonetization. Now, there are a number of reasons for such an increase in the UPI transactions. First and foremost, this could be attributed to the ease of transaction which is associated with doing the transaction through UPI. Now, for instance, if you want to do a transaction through a e-wallet such as the Paytm wallet, now for doing those transactions, one would be required to load money from their bank account into the Paytm wallet, and this particular wallet can then be used for doing multiple transactions. So there is a lack of ease when you're doing transactions through e-wallet because one would be required to load their e-wallets. However, in case of UPI, one can do the transaction directly from the bank account, because of which there is a greater ease of transaction through the UPI. The second reason is, as the UPI is an open technology, various technological companies such as Google have incorporated UPI into their application platforms, because of which the number of transactions flowing through the UPI has also increased commensurately. The third reason being, if you want to use a e-wallet, one would be required to follow the KYC norms as stipulated by the regulator. However, in case of UPI, there is no need for KYC norms. The last reason can be attributed to lack of interoperability between various e-wallets. This can be seen from the fact that, let's say you have certain amount of money in your Paytm wallet. Now you cannot transfer this particular money to say another wallet, let's say the Flipkart wallet. So presently there is lack of interoperability between the two different e-wallets, because of which the number of transactions that take place through the e-wallet is considerably lower, and the number of transactions which take place through UPI is considerably higher. Now these are some of the important aspects which one should know with respect to this particular article. Now the next article has been taken from the page number 15. The title of the article is Samples from Bennu. This article shall be important mainly with respect to prelims under the subsection General Science. The American Space Agency NASA has launched a program which is referred to as the New Frontiers program. Now this particular program seeks to explore our solar system so as to improve our understanding about the solar system. The NASA's New Frontier program in turn has a number of missions. These missions are the New Horizon mission, which was launched in the year 2006. Now this particular mission basically seeks to investigate the distant solar system, including Pluto and its moon, as well as the study of the Kuiper belt. The next mission is the Juno mission, which was launched in the year 2016, and this particular mission seeks to undertake the study of the planet Jupiter. The NASA has also launched the OSIRIS-Rex mission in the year 2016. Now, this particular mission basically aims to collect the samples from an asteroid which is known as Bennu and carry back those samples back to the Earth. And the next mission is the Dragonfly. Please note that this particular mission has not been launched and it is set to be launched in the year 2026. And the basic mandate of this particular mission is to study Saturn and its icy moons. Now, this particular article here highlights that the NASA's OSIRIS-Rex mission has chosen a target landing site known as Nightingale on the asteroid Bennu. In this regard, let us understand in detail about the OSIRIS-Rex mission. Now, as stated before, the OSIRIS-Rex mission is part of NASA's New Frontier program and it was launched in the year 2016. Now, the basic objectives of the OSIRIS-Rex mission is to carry out the study of the formation of planets and to understand the various asteroids that can possibly impact the Earth in future. Now, if you look at the asteroids as such, the asteroids are considered to be small rocky objects that orbit the Sun. Now, even though the asteroids orbit the Sun just like planets, they are considered to be much smaller than the planets. And most of the asteroids in our solar system are found between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Now, as to why the asteroids are considered to be important is because during the evolution of our solar system, the solar system in its earlier stages was said to be filled with the planetesimals. Now, most of these planetesimals have now got incorporated into a number of planets, and the leftover planetesimals have now formed the asteroids. That is why the asteroids are also referred to as the minor planets. So, if we carry out the study of these minor planets, that is the asteroids, we would be able to trace the evolution of our solar system. Hence, the overall objective of the OSIRIS-Rex mission is to study the formation of planets and to understand the various asteroids that can possibly impact the Earth in future. And as stated before, the basic idea behind the OSIRIS-Rex mission is to collect the samples from the asteroid Bennu and carry it back to the Earth by end of 2023. Now, as to why the Bennu asteroid has been chosen for the OSIRIS-Rex mission, now the scientists at NASA believe that Bennu as such is a potential asteroid that can possibly hit Earth in the year 2135. Now, even though the probability of such a direct impact between asteroid Bennu and the planet Earth is said to be lower, nevertheless, the scientists at NASA seeks to undertake a study of the Bennu asteroid. Apart from that, by undertaking a comprehensive study of the Bennu asteroid, we would be able to enhance our understanding about the evolution of planets. Now, apart from NASA, even Japan has launched similar missions to undertake the study of the asteroids. For instance, Japan has launched the Hayabusa mission in the year 2003, and this particular mission seeks to study the features of an asteroid which is referred to as the Itokawa. On similar lines, Japan has also launched the Hayabusa 2 mission, which was launched in the year 2014, and this particular mission seeks to study the features of an asteroid which is referred to as Ryugu. Now, as to why this particular article becomes important with respect to your prelims is because normally in prelims, questions have been asked not only with respect to important missions of ISRO, questions have also been asked with respect to the important space missions of other countries as well. In this regard, one would be required to have certain basic understanding about the NASA's New Frontier program as well as the Hayabusa mission of Japan. Now we are taking the next article from page number 3 of the Sunday magazine. The title of the article is How India Lost Its Spots. This article shall be important mainly with respect to prelims under the subsection General Issues on Environmental Ecology. During the recent meeting of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification that was held in Delhi in the month of September 2019, a researcher from India has highlighted that it is a desertification that has led to the extinction of cheetah in India. Now, such a statement from the India-based researcher has in turn led to a growing amount of debate about the reasons for the extinction of cheetah in India as well as the cheetah reintroduction program. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we'll understand certain basic details about cheetah the reasons for its extinction in India, as well as the cheetah reintroduction project. Now, cheetah is considered to the fastest land animal in the world. It is tan in color with black spots. Cheetahs are easily distinguished from the other cats in terms of their smaller size, smaller head, as well as ears. Apart from that, cheetahs as such have a distinctive tear stripes which run from their eyes to nose, as shown in this particular image. Now, with respect to the distribution of cheetahs across the world, historically, cheetahs were found throughout the continents of Asia as well as Africa, and it was also found in India, particularly in the forest of the East Central India. However, today, cheetahs as such are confined only to Eastern, Central, and Southwestern Africa, as well as certain portions of Iran as well. Now, with respect to why cheetah has gone extinct in case of India, there are a number of reasons. First and foremost, cheetahs are considered to be much easier to hunt, and hence hunting has emerged as one of the reasons for the extinction of cheetah. Secondly, during the British period, the cheetahs were declared as vermin since they were considered to be harmful to the crops and also spread the diseases. So, since they were declared as vermin, the people who killed the cheetahs were rewarded by the British government. Thirdly, unlike the other big cats, the cheetahs are considered to be difficult to breed in captivity. And the last reason is attributed to the loss of the grassland habitat, particularly in the forest of the East Central India. Now, in case of India, the last cheetah died in the year 1947 in the state of Chhattisgarh, and subsequently in the year 1952, cheetah was declared as extinct in India. Now, the government of India has initiated the cheetah reintroduction project. Now, the overall plan under this particular project is to relocate some of the cheetahs from Namibia to India, and already the government of India has identified 3 regions for the cheetah reintroduction. Now, these 3 regions are namely the Nauradehi Wildlife Sanctuary and the Kuno Palpur Wildlife Sanctuary, and both these wildlife sanctuaries are located in the state of Madhya Pradesh. And the third region is the Shagad Bulge landscape, which is located in Jaisalmer in the state of Rajasthan. Now, even though such a project was conceptualized way back in the year 2009, this particular project has failed to take off on account of number of challenges. First and foremost, according to guidelines laid down under IUCN, India would be required to obtain the no objection certificate for the translocation of the wildlife species. Apart from that, the IUCN guidelines also warn against the introduction of the alien or the exotic species. The second challenge is that the reintroduction of cheetahs to the Kuno Palpur Wildlife Sanctuary has hit a roadblock. This is because the Kuno Palpur Wildlife Sanctuary has also been chosen for the introduction of the Asiatic lions from the Gir forest in Gujarat. So, since the same wildlife sanctuary has been chosen for the introduction of both Asiatic lions as well as cheetahs, the petition has been filed before the Supreme Court, and the matter as such has not been resolved so far. And lastly, with respect to reintroduction of cheetah to the Nauradehi Wildlife Sanctuary, now such a reintroduction of cheetahs to the Nauradehi Wildlife Sanctuary has not taken place so far because of the lack of funds. However, recently the state government of Madhya Pradesh has shown a keen interest in the revival of the cheetah reintroduction project. Now we are taken the next article from page number 15. The title of the article is Evidence of River Saraswati's Existence Found. This article shall be important mainly with respect to prelims under the subsection History of India as well as the Indian Geography. The Nadi Sukta in the Rig Veda makes a mention of almost around 21 rivers, including the river Saraswati. Now, this particular river Saraswati becomes important because this mythical river was considered to be the lifeblood of the early Harappans, because of which some of the archaeologists believe that the early Harappan civilization was not along the river Indus, but rather it was along the river Saraswati and its tributaries. Now, in the image given below here, you can look at the map of the early Harappan civilization as well as the modern day river system of India. Now, in this particular map, you can look at the modern day river Ganga as well as its ancient dry bed. Now, during the ancient times, it was believed that the river Ganga was in turn fed by the glaciers. And if you look at this particular dry bed of the river Ganga, it is along this particular dry bed one can find a number of archaeological sites associated with the Harappan civilization. So some of the archaeologists believe that the early Harappan civilization was actually lying along this particular dry bed of the river Ganga and was earlier referred to as the river Saraswati. Now, a recent study carried out by IIT Bombay has substantiated this particular belief, and it has highlighted that the ancient Saraswati river was actually the dry bed of the modern day Gaggar Hakra river. Now, based upon a video discussion, let us now take up certain prelims based questions for your practice. The first question here is, which of the below mentioned missions are part of the New Frontier program of NASA? As discussed before, the Juno, New Horizons, the OSIRIS-Rex and Dragonfly, all these 4 missions are part of the New Frontier program of NASA. Accordingly, the answer to this particular question shall be D. The second question here is, which of the following animals are extinct in wild in India? And the options which are given here are Asiatic cheetah, pink-headed duck and the Sumatran rhino. Please note that all of these 3 animals have gone extinct in wild in India, and hence the answer to this particular question shall be D. Now coming to third question, the question here is, which of the following can be considered to be part of the payment and settlement system in India? Now payment and settlement system basically involves the transfer of money from a payer to a beneficiary. And the payment and settlement system not only includes the paper-based systems such as the checks and drafts, but it also includes the electronic payments such as the RTGS, NEFT and IMPS. So the question here is, which of the following can be considered to be part of payment and settlement system in India? And if you look at the options, all of these 4 are considered to be part of the payment and settlement system in India, and hence the answer to this particular question shall be D. Now coming to fourth question, the question here is, consider the following statements related to the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. The first statement here is, it has been empowered to fix the prices of the drugs which are not under the National List of Essential Medicines. Now this particular statement here is correct. This is because under the paragraph 19 of the DPCO 2013, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has been vested with the extraordinary powers so as to fix the prices of even those drugs which are not under the National List of Essential Medicines. The second statement reads as, it has been empowered to check the increase in the prices of the non-scheduled drugs. Even this particular statement here is correct. This is because the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority has to ensure that the prices of the non-scheduled drugs should not increase by more than 10% every year. So if you look at the options which are given here, the correct answer to this particular question shall be C. That is both 1 and 2. With this, we have come to end of today's discussion. Now let us have a look at the question for the day.